Hello, my name is Niall McKeown and today we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 myths surrounding digital transformation. Two quick slides to cover before we get into the myths to make sure that we all have the same understanding. So, what is digital transformation? The word digital is simply a synonym for the pace of change that's occurring in today's world, driven by the rapid adoption of technology, whereas transformation in this context is how an organisation is built to change, innovate and reinvent rather than simply enhance and support their older traditional methods. We believe that strategy is where we will create competitive advantage. Our people and a culture of innovation will sustain that competitive advantage. Technology and communications is the means by which it's delivered. So what are these 5 myths? Let's take a look at myth number 1. Improving our IT systems leads to digital transformation. If we were to take a look at the latest thinking from David Rogers, see what he has to say on the subject.
We just have to keep in mind that digital transformation is not fundamentally about changing your technology. It's really about strategy, about leadership, and about new ways of thinking. Every business that was started before the internet faces a challenge today of how to adapt and transform to compete and thrive in an increasingly digital economy. And this is really a very different challenge for these existing businesses than for what is the needs of a startup. But what I increasingly found the more I looked at businesses was that digital transformation is really not about technology. It's actually much more about changing, not upgrading your IT, so to speak, but upgrading your strategic thinking.
So Rogers says digital transformation is fundamentally not about technology but about strategy. Although it may require upgrading of IT architecture, the more important upgrade is to strategic thinking. Whilst I have to agree that the most major upgrade is to strategic thinking, I think we have to keep technology on the same power as that. But interestingly, how much time is spent on strategic thinking and how much time is spent on technology, and we'll see technology is completely disproportionately overrepresented. So, improving our operations is strategic digital transformation. Michael Porter created one of the most cited articles on the web, which is what is strategy. So if we're going to be strategic, we must understand what strategy actually is. In Porter's article, he tries to separate out the difference between being good at what we do and using technology to be good at what we do, and strategy. Let's take a look at a quick video to see what a professor has to say.
And if we can't tie our competitive advantage to the specific activities from which it arises, then we are not thinking clearly. If we're satisfied with very vague kind of strengths and weaknesses list, we're not thinking very clearly about strategy. Now, then, as we go forward and think about positioning, we've got to add one other critical concept, and that's the distinction between operational effectiveness and strategic positioning. Operational effectiveness is staying at best practice, doing things well, good execution, whatever you want to call it. Should we be on the cloud or should we have our own servers? That's an operational effectiveness question. It's kind of a best practice question. But what we understand is that operational effectiveness is not strategy.
Strategy is about organizational change. So if our strategies do not involve the changing of our organizations, rather the digitization of our organizations, is it actually strategic transformation? Number 3, improving digital marketing leads to some form of digital transformation. The communications marketing people are highly important to digital transformation, sometimes overlooked, There are three key components that need to be in the room. It is that of communications, but it's not about creating brochures or creating websites or Facebook pages. It's about creating a mind shift as to where we are now within our colleagues' minds, within our customers' minds, and being able to communicate new competitive advantage to everyone in order to create a mind shift. We also have to have the technologists in the room because they're going to likely roll out the solution that will lead to transformation. But the number one person, the most important person, and usually the person that's absent in digital transformation is that of the leadership. They need to re-envision how the organisation is going to be. They need to lead step change. And quite often they fear doing that because they believe that it's too technical. And actually, digital transformation, as David Rogers has said, as Michael Porter has said, it's actually not about technology. It's about understanding where we are in our landscape, our competitors, our customers, our resources, and finding new competitive advantage within our organisation. Number 4, all digital transformation strategies are good strategies. It's more frequent than not that we go into an organisation, we find that there is a strategy. Or is there? What makes a good strategy? Richard Rummell's book from 2011, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, goes into the detail of what is required to make a good strategy. Let's hear from Rummell himself.
Good strategy, bad strategy came out of me because of a growing frustration in the gap between what one thinks of as strategy and what passes for strategy in so many companies, in so many politicians' mouths, in so many government agencies, in so many nonprofits, universities, school systems. They say they have a strategy, but they don't. They have something else, something I call bad strategy. And bad strategy is not the absence of strategy, it's an active force of mistaken belief into how to think strategically.
Rummell says that strategy comes from identifying one or two critical issues in the situation, the pivot points that can multiply our effectiveness of effort, then focusing and concentrating our actions and resources on them. He goes on to say that strategy isn't actually a strategy unless it has a strategy kernel. By that, he says, it must contain 3 elements. A diagnosis of the organisational problem. That's a leadership challenge. Then the leaders must give guidance on how to solve that problem. And finally, we then take action, coherent action, to solve the diagnosed problem using the guiding policy. Rummell says without these 3 things within our strategies, they're not strategies because it will lead to incoherent action. So not all strategies are good strategies and not all ideas of implementing technology lead to digital transformation. Myth number 5. Agile, lean, sprint, Porter's 5 forces, pestle models. These things are what we would use to create transformation strategies? Well, no, not exactly. If we take a look at Agile and Lean and Sprint, they are development methodologies. They are not strategy development tools. They assume the strategy has been created and they are the delivery agent to allow us to deliver upon our strategies. So where's the missing point? Well, defining new competitive advantage, understanding the characteristics of what that looks like, understanding what customers are going to want, understanding who we have to displace in the marketplace, understanding where we are now and where we intend to go to, that all happens at an earlier stage. Then testing our assumptions and creating solutions, that's where the Agile, Lean, Sprints and many other methodologies fit in. They come after the strategy development process, which allows us to deliver the technology. We have to start further down the line. The 7 principles of digital business strategy actually allows us to create a strategy built for digital transformation. If you go to Ionology.com, you'll see the digital transformation framework page, which has many of the details associated with this. It allows us to understand where we are now. What does the data tell us? Are we an authority in our marketplace? Who's referencing us? We can't self-proclaim to be an authority. Are we the prime player? In what market? Are we using attention techniques? These things will allow us to map out where we are now, decide where we would like to be, and then define the resources that are going to be required, the competitors that must be displaced, the customers that must be attracted, and a new, unique value proposition which will have to spearhead any development that's going to happen using our Agile or Lean methodologies. This data evidence-based solution will allow us to create strategies that are verified and can be measured in terms of progress empirically. And that helps the leadership take control of the situation and drive change in their organisation. It will result in mile markers, projects and tasks, which will then result in the actions that we must take. I hope you enjoyed those 5 myths. If you disagree with them, please let us know. If you've got more, please contribute and we'll maybe make another video. Thanks for watching.
What?